When it comes to anime, there are plenty of reasons to watch. Sometimes it's badass action sequences, sometimes it's for compelling characters and gripping storytelling, and sometimes it's just for comfort. And that last category is where today's anime comes in. Welcome to Japan, Miss Elf is a series about a man with the ability to jump between two worlds whenever he falls asleep. In one, he's Kazuhiko, the average salaryman living in a modest apartment in Japan. In the other, he's Kazuhiho, a young adventurer. Now I know, brilliant alias, but it was actually a mistake on his part when he came up with that name. Either way, Kazuhiko is on an adventure one day with his good friend, the elven mage Maribel, when they find themselves trapped inside a dragon's nest and are promptly incinerated. For Kazuhiko, this is really no big problem, as whenever he dies in the fantasy land, he's promptly jolted awake in Japan. But Maribel is a different situation. Or so he thought. It turns out that by clinging to her in the moment of their demise, he was able to take her back to Japan. So the lucky bastard wakes up with a naked silver-haired elf waifu, and I'm totally jealous of him.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
Now this series is pretty unique in being both an isekai and a reverse isekai, as well as a slice of life series and an action adventure series. For better or for worse, it's got its eggs spread out into multiple baskets, so the many elements at play make it a bit of a novelty. But that element ends up being a bit of a double-edged sword. You see, this series is at its best when it's a chill and relaxing reverse isekai slice of life. It's genuinely fun and endearing when Mary is out exploring Japan and experiencing the shock of a first confrontation with the technology of a modern and non-magical world. The relationship she has with Kazuhiko, who appears much older in Japan than he does in the fantasy realm, is something I find somewhat soothing about the series. It's why I like to watch this one. It's nice, calm anime to watch after a long, hard day. Characters are simple, yet fun, and there's a touch of romance about it as the two main characters figure out how to handle this crazy double life, guided by some unknown power who ultimately decides how the rules of their world hopping work. That said, I can't say I'm a huge fan of the fantasy side of this, which is strange because fantasy and isekai are usually my preferred genres of anime and manga. It was fun for the novelty in the first few episodes when we were introduced to the Archdragon whom Kazuhiko barters for his life with using a couple bottles of beer and 2 bento boxes. There was an element of pure adventure to it that made it fun, but it also maintained the slice of life elements and chill atmosphere of it that was where the series shined its most. But after that, they transitioned into something of a dungeon dive in an ancient city that just didn't sit right with me. Mary was hardly around for one of those episodes, and the battle wasn't even all that fun to watch. The one thing I will say in favor of the action fantasy side is that at the very least it didn't turn the series into a pure power fantasy when they went over to that realm. Kazuhiko's greatest strength is his mobility, as in he has short distance teleportation skills as well as a once a day long distance travel ability that can carry him between set points. However, even for as much as he's been involved in combat, he's far from a fighter. The fantasy elements could have been better thus far, but I'll wait for this upcoming exploration section to play out before I fully send my judgment, since I suspect it may end up involving the dragon and her taking a trip to Japan. It's just that so far, on that part, it has really failed to give me something worthwhile. All that said, I do admit it's not particularly spectacular as a show. And I can guarantee you part of my enjoyment of it is my silver-haired elf waifu fetish. There are places where it could obviously improve, quite easily in fact. But the parts of it I do like are more than entertaining enough to keep me coming back every week. So if you want something chill, something relaxing and sweet, this is probably a good pick. Although, it's hardly in everyone's series, it's hardly an eye-catcher, and it's hardly something I can say is best of the season.